Testing. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay. And we are alive. Okay? We're alive. Okay. Simple idea. Simple message. Ideas need time to grow. And time will tell if they work or not. Give ideas more time. Okay? And I learned this yesterday. Um, I learned this yesterday in a short term period, but it kind of made me think about, considering things more in the long term and thinking more long term. Um, Yesterday, after I posted a short, because I'd been having trouble figuring out type of content. I was not getting the kind of response I was hoping I was getting. I didn't want to do content that was too mass market. I wanted to do very specific, informative content. And I left some of the tests up there. I removed some of my older shorts, and I removed some shorts that kind of feel a little off direction, sure. And, you know, in my most recent short, I had, let me explain why I removed them. I removed them because I've kind of figured out a direction for me to go to, and they just kind of didn't align, which is cool. Like, they weren't bad content. I mean, I liked some of them, but direction is important, and it's cool that I made them, and I liked them. But if they're not on brand, then they can be, regardless of how well something did. But to be fair, a lot of that stuff didn't do very well. Even on the hello, one viewer, how are you? Some of the content I removed just doesn't feel on brand, so I've kind of removed it. But my last short, I was a little disappointed because I'd worked so hard, and if you watch the short, I kind of fell over in it, and it was not the nicest of falls. And it took 6 hours before it jumped from 40 views upwards. One viewer is fine. Yes, it is. It's perfect. Just how I like it. Feels so personal. But yeah, I was a little disappointed because usually it takes about, I want to say, 2-3 hours until like a video actually shows how well it's going to do. And it didn't do that. Like, if any video I make that is going to do well, it shows that it's going to do well in the first 1, 2, 3 hours, right? It gets like bumps in viewership, which means it's got a good hook, so people are watching it more, so it's being recommended more. But this one, for 6 hours, it did nothing. It was just like one viewer after the other over a few hours, and it got up to like 40. And at the third hour mark, it was at like hard stuck at 20. So I was a little disappointed because I was getting like an 8.5 rating on the video, and then suddenly in the sixth hour of the video, sudden bump up. And now it's at 1.9K, which is surprising. And so sometimes you just got to give ideas their time. This was probably the most I've worked on a script, and although it's not the most well performing, it's still well performing, which is, can't put a price on that. Sometimes you just have to wait and see. You have to be a little more long term, and ideas don't always. Oh, he's gone. 0 viewers is also fine. Um, Ideas don't always have to show their success immediately. Sometimes it takes a little while, or maybe sometimes an idea is good, but it's incomplete. It needs a little bit more. It needs a little pivot in direction, just slightly, and you find yourself in the golden, in the golden ratio, in the golden spot, just like that little. It just needs to be edged a little bit up or down. And you have to watch out for that. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the worst part, right? It sucks, but you just have to give it more time, and you pivot as you progress. And sometimes you make wrong pivots, sometimes you make good pivots, and unfortunately, you know, it just takes time. And some ideas, fortunately, because content, it's like it takes a while. It takes like at least a day or two to know if a video is doing well, because that's when you get like the retention metrics from YouTube, 2 or 3 days. That's when you start to get like all the information you need. And really, honestly, like to really know how well a video does, you have to wait a week, because sometimes they're slow bloomers. Some might jump up immediately. Like there's a YouTuber who had a controversy. I'm Alex, and he was being canceled and whatnot. I don't really care about the controversy, or I don't really want to get into it. But because of those videos popping up on my recommended, people talking about him and his name, his channel title was being like new videos were coming up that were getting insane amount of viewership because of the new controversy and people wanting to comment on it, that I was being recommended shorts and videos from years ago from that same creator. Now, obviously, we don't want to be involved in controversies like that, but sometimes, you never really know. So you have to give things time. And yeah. And it is now day 52. And on day 42, we spoke about possibly getting a lot more done. And I would describe that as reaching for the sun. And fortunately, we landed on the moon. So we have, from 10 days ago, a much better idea of. Has it been 10 days? Oh, crap. I don't even know. Oh, shit. I don't even know if it's been 10 days. Well, it's been a long time. And, oh, God, I'm going to have to go search up the old video. Now I'm confused. It doesn't even feel like it's been 10 days. But regardless, it's something that you have to really kind of just let happen, right? Come up with good ideas to the best of your ability. And just wait to see what happens, right? Because I was a little dejected. I'm like, I worked so hard on this short, and I didn't even get a good bump in the first 6 hours. I think I checked it at like 3-4 hours, and it was like hard stock. And then suddenly, I got a message from a friend saying, "Hey, your video's doing good." I'm like, "Huh?" And then I check it, and I'm like, "Whoa, okay, it got its bump. All right, I did do something right. It just took a little while to show." So, and surprisingly, it had Good amount of engagement too. Good amount of likes as a percentage to the viewership. Good amount of comments, relatively. Could have more comments, but that's just it. I'm on the right track. I just got to pivot, and that kind of illuminated another direction for me. It's like, okay, I've made it here. Now I need to pick left or right or forward. Forward is not ideal because we don't want to keep doing the same thing. I want to keep what worked, right? What works is the kind of content I'm making, and I think the level of humor is decent, um, but it needs to be more insightful. And that's what I'm focusing on now. Research papers on AI, things of that sort. Things that are happening that not many people know about. Like, I'm currently working on a short. It's like finding things that are interesting, right? Not just things that are popular, right? Because we spoke about this yesterday. Insight is not found in the mainstream. Things that are interesting have unique insight, but they're not always just in front of you. And so I found this video, I forget what channel, but he was talking about some amazing stuff about AI, a lot of really fringe stuff, like, about processors that are more powerful than NVIDIA's, more specifically AI chips that were far more popular than, um, you know, the regular stuff of it, like that, the stuff that OpenAI is using. And scientists used it to develop proteins, which is kind of insane. And it was able to do simulations of 500 million years worth of, you know, generative information, and was able to develop a perfect protein that had green fluorescent properties. And it's like, okay, that's really interesting. But that alone is not that alone is incomplete, because that's, again, just something I saw in a YouTube video. It's like, but what does that entail? It's like, okay, this is information that not many people, I wouldn't say that, I would say a lot of people know about it that are interested in this topic, but not enough for it to be common knowledge. It's like, okay, it's not ideal, but there is something there. Okay, so I sort of follow it up, and it's like, break down the idea, right? I'm going to be filming this later, but obviously, like, maximum 10 people watch these lives, so I can kind of talk about it and get away with, breaking it down, right? Plus, who watches the whole thing unless they're really into this stuff, right? This is for your really interested folk, right? It's like, okay, let's break down that idea, because I'm going to be filming it later. And obviously, that takes a little bit longer to do, so I'm just going through the idea. 500 million years of evolution. That's interesting. But the fact that it's a protein, which means it has biomedical, bio something consequences. There's something there. It has uses with humans, right? Internally, it's kind of like, it's like, what it constitutes a protein. It's like, what kind of proteins are there in a human body? It's like, if it can create a protein that fluoresces green, what other kind of protein can it create? And it's like, antibodies are proteins. And what's something that's happened quite recently that is very, related to antibodies, that we had a whole shutdown for a few years, right? The whole world was in a lockdown and afraid. It's like, okay. And there was a whole issue about, whether the treatment for it was useful or harmful, right? And it's like, okay, AI can do 500 million years of, what do you call it? Evolutionary simulation. That's insane, right? It's like, okay, a virus. I'm reading out the script. A virus that took hundreds of millions of years to develop the ability to shut down the world for a few years would be countered within a few weeks, where it could basically do. Now I'm off script. Where it could possibly do hundreds of millions of years, tens of millions, 500 millions, thousands, billions of years. If we gave it enough time, and it's just the processors, AI. It's all just going to get better and better. So it's like, who's to say it can't do billions of years, trillions of years of evolution? You know, because it's the evolution part that makes it useful, right? It's like, if you create something today that does a certain task, we can't possibly be aware of the kind of consequences that could have. But if you have real world simulations that can run in an AI software, where you take all the different properties of a human and you put it through that tool, that software, and you introduce your newly AI created protein into it, you could do 30 years of, like, 40 years, 50 years of kind of simulations and the kind of things that could happen, side effects, things like that. You could do that insanely fast, and you could create biomedical uses for this software, and it would be, groundbreaking. It would be a brave new world, right? Because all antibodies are proteins. And it's like, okay, if you can make a green fluorescent protein, can you make an antibody that you could just put into a human, specifically targeted for a specific human, right? Like, could we possibly create, like, because it's like, what we do is we create a one size fits all solution for that thing, and then we inject it into our body, and that's how we fight off disease. But who's to say that we don't create antibodies for specific people with their specific DNA in mind, that gets accepted by their bodies, because we're able to generate that protein balance, and also something that can that has limited side effects because of the amount of simulations it has, and how it perfectly solves the problem of the foreign body inside of the human bloodstream or wherever, right? So it's that is an application of of combining two ideas. It's like, I'm taking the yesterday's ideas of insight, and I'm creating an idea, and that is useful insight. It's like, I'm aware of certain information, and I know about certain things, and I know about certain issues when it comes to something in the past that has happened quite recently and is still quite sore in people's memories. And there's news reports still about the kind of ramifications of the treatment that was advised, and it's constantly in the news, right? And it's like, okay, we have this idea and we have this idea, and the underlying thing that connects them is protein development. And it's like, okay, now we have two ideas that link, and combining those is something that not many people have done in this way, because this is completely new information from like a week ago or like a few weeks ago. It's like, okay, we can package that into a single idea and present it. And that's unique information. That's something that, it's like, it's not just regurgitating things from a study. It's not just saying things that already exist. It's creating a new idea by combining pieces of knowledge together to give people your insight into the world. And it's like, that new insight is useful because it gets people to think. It's like, once you put an idea out there, right, then, like, it, and if it's a good idea, it sticks in people's minds, right? Consider like the kind of technology we had in the 60s and the 70s on sci-fi shows. A lot of that, like, consider this. My personal theory on this is that, like, you see, like, in old TV shows where they show future technology, right? A lot of that has come true. It's like cellular devices, mobile phones, like that stuff didn't exist before and not in that size. But it's like once someone has like the idea that something like that could exist, because like the technology that caused that to exist did not exist before. But once someone has put that into your mind and the general public has accepted it, science then kind of goes towards that. It's like, okay, wouldn't it be cool if that thing existed? Let's create it, right? So that kind of insight into like how future technologies could work is a great way to actually change future technology or push it in a certain direction, right? I was watching this. I saw like a while ago about these videos about like proposed future tech from Star Trek. Never seen the show, but I heard it. It's good. More of a Star Wars fan, but you know, I've seen some stuff and it looks cool. But the kind of technology proposed is now slowly becoming more and more fly, more and more a part of reality. I was like, okay, a good idea will incept into people's mind until it becomes true, right? Who's to say that this idea that I come up with goes into someone else's mind and they make another video, and perhaps this idea develops into a more well known way of looking at the use cases of generative AI and doing simulations using artificial intelligence. And who's to say 20, not even 20, because AI is moving so fast, like 5, 10 years from now, someone creates this. And, you know, who's to say, you know, just because I haven't read it, who's to say people aren't already thinking about it, right? But propagating that idea is, and if it's a good idea, right? Because it makes sense, right? If it can create a protein and antibodies are a protein, then perhaps soon to come we could have uh, medical solutions based on AI that vary person to person for the same disease, right? Because it's like I saw something a while ago about like cancer treatment, right? There's different types of cancer treatments, and for different types of cancers, and it's like generally people get the standard, right? But people with a lot of money, they can get very targeted chemotherapy or cancer treatment that can fight off cancer far more effectively with far few side effects, right? And it's like that's available to rich people. So that kind of targeted treatment exists already, but it's very expensive. This can make it far more cheap, which, you know, helps a lot of people, saves a lot of people's lives. And combining these two ideas propagates that idea. If you can package it correctly to get it to as many people as you can, um, these kinds of things change the world. It's like I was reading this book. What was the name? Was it Hook Point? Yeah, Hook Point. About how you know only about 5-10% of people actually brush their teeth in like the 30s, 20s, and it was actually marketing campaigns by Pepsigate in the early 20s that or early 20s, 30s that actually led to an increase of well and other uh, dental hygiene companies, but that led to a lot more people brushing their teeth, and dental hygiene is important for basic health, and helps you stay healthy overall. A lot of uh, health problems can start in the mouth, diseases and stuff, because your mouth, interacts with food and all sorts of other things in your environment, breathing and such. And if you take care of your dental hygiene, it kind of stops the development of harmful bacteria in the mouth. Because, well, you're swallowing your spit all the time, and if there's harmful bacteria in there, that's going into your stomach and that's propagating throughout your entire body. And maybe it's not entirely harmful now, but over the course of decades, it could be a problem. And any sort of infection that happens in the teeth, um, if they're not taken care of, can lead to infections in the entire body and be quite painful. So a good idea, when propagated properly, can change the world. Or it could harm it. It could harm it negatively. For example, the idea that smoking is somehow connected to woman empowerment led to a lot more women smoking, thanks to Marlboro and the women's suffrage movement after World War II. And um, it did cause more people to smoke, but that can cause damage. So it's a bit of a power that you have to be careful with. But there you go. Ideas are powerful, and they take time to develop. And you just have to look out for the right opportunity. And it's like, this is new, and it's very this idea is deeply connected to the struggle a lot of people have gone to through the past few years. And it's like, okay, it's definitely a good idea. If I can package it correctly, then people might listen. And it's like, that's the part before the idea is executed, right? It's like, okay, I have an idea. Can I describe exactly why it's a good idea? It's like, okay, I've done that. It's like, now what? Create it to the best of my ability and push it out. It's like, okay, all good. And it's like, what then? Right? Give it time, right? And it's not just, this idea, but this way of thinking and looking at the world. And it's like, this kind of thinking can generate attention, then I can keep hammering at this kind of content. And once I've done that, perhaps I can get attention for being someone who looks at the world in a certain way, right? And that's what people gravitate to. A lot of people just care about good ideas, right? Good ideas is good content. Good content is world changing. Not to be too what's the word? Not to have delusions of grandeur, but it's just a way of looking at the world. Not saying I'll be able to, but that is essentially the way to go about it, right? And ideas are far more potent if you can package them correctly, because of the internet and social media, because it's so easy to get your idea into billions of people's houses, in their hands, in their ears, if you just package it correctly. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. For my content, a lot of the trouble I was having is, the way to create new insight each time. Right? It's like, how do I take something that's interesting and not well known, and combine it with my own knowledge and insight and research to create a good idea, and then on top of that, package it. And I think I've gotten a good idea on how to package it, which is why I'm focusing so much on insight. And I think I've made some progress in that, and I'm gonna just be constantly doing that. Today I've finished 2 scripts. Issue is, I do not want to be doing another fall So, it's like, sure, that part's interesting, but I had a headache for 2 days after that. I think I gave myself a minor whiplash. My neck's been sore. But, I'm just glad it did a little good. Yeah, give it time. And, obviously now I have to come up with new and more interesting ways of packaging it. But that's okay because, a lot of other parts of the puzzle have been kind of eased for me because I was able to figure it out. It's like a puzzle, right? Like a picture puzzle. And when you first get it out of the box, you have so many different pieces, and it's kind of disorienting. And you have to, you're like, okay, just start at the corners. And it's like once you start filling in like what half of it, like 30%, you start getting a bit of an idea of the picture, and then you start looking for a certain type of color, a certain type of um, pattern, right? Maybe if it's like a building with like some green in the background, you'll know once you're working on a piece, you look for the green pieces, and maybe you can even divide them to get your process down a little faster. And so as you get closer, as more answers are coming to you, the process actually does get harder because at some points, like if you're halfway through, some of the images, like like if it's like the sky, the cloud might just be pure white, and that might be the hardest part. But you might get stuck on that. But as everything around it starts to fill up, that part gets easier and easier because there's less pieces to fill in. This fly is bothering me, but yeah, give it time. Sometimes things go wrong, and that's cool. Just pivot, and you're all good. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. Um, yeah. So be good, do good things. I've got some work to do now. And how long do I have? I've lost daylight while doing this, so luckily I have two scripts, and I might work on a third because I've gotten a good idea on how to do the script stuff now. I think I'm coming up with much better scripts. Issue is filming, but I'll figure that out too. I'll try to come up with another script because I need daylight to be able to film properly, which sucks because it's always like 40 degrees in Dubai, so it's a little rough. I have to cake on sunscreen. Is it sunscreen or sunscreen? Sunscreen. Sunscreen. I used to call it sunscreen. Yeah, and sometimes I've rushed the sunscreen and burnt myself. But I think I'm gonna take my time, do a little workout today. I've been neglecting that because I got sick, and then I hurt my neck on that fall, and that's put me on a bit of a burner. Yeah, I had to shelve that so I can focus more. Like yesterday, I was completely out of it. Um, Real foggy thinking, but I'm feeling better today. I think I'm gonna do a little workout and then do some work, and then tomorrow is just gonna be like pure filming, and then obviously I'll post one, and then the day after I'll post another. Yeah, uh, hopefully I can fix my posting schedule because it is too inconsistent, which is not good for the algorithm. So I need to post more, and I need to post better content. But now that I found a good format, good packaging that can get some consistency. I think I'm gonna really just go ham at it. But yeah, that's enough for me today. Bit of an update, bit of a lesson. Be good, do good things, and subscribe and good things happen. And it is day. What day is it? It is day 52 of 100, and we're still at it. I got to do like a short of when I finish the 100 days of like every single day, like a second from each one. Now that won't fit in like a short, but I'll see what I can do with it. I want to do something with it. But day 52. I'll see you tomorrow.